There were people that told me, they were like, dude, you're in a cult. I didn't even hear them, man. I was so blinded and engrossed in it. I've spent $40,000 for the 2-day 10X 360 event. I've taken 10X Business Bootcamp. I've done a 10X Business Bootcamp for Grant. I've been around this enough to know they are not successful. It's all
doing that in my past life is what led me to prison.
Rebecca Hamilton, she mentioned that they are not doing what they say they're doing. And I called Grant on this immediately when I separated myself, because I noticed that they were ghosting me and calling me a suppressive person. As bad as it was, I'm happy I went through it so that I can actually not just be someone outside looking in and making an opinion, but like, look, I was in that. I know how they operate. I know how they treat people. It seems to be like the latest thing that everybody's taken interest on is my recent experience of voluntarily leaving the 10X community with Grant Cardone. So could talk about a lot, but that seems to be getting the most traction right now.
Yeah, pretty cool. No.
You know what's funny about that actually is I could look at that as a mistake and like something bad, and like, you know, I could complain about that. But I honestly am kind of grateful that I went through that. The way I kind of look at that, I see you're like, why? Well, I'll tell you why, man. Like, I needed to go through the dark in order to see the light.
Right.
And honestly, you couldn't have pulled me out of that scenario. Like, there were people that told me, they were like, dude, you're in a fucking cult. And I was just like, I didn't even hear them, man. I was so blinded and engrossed in it. So as bad as it was, I'm happy I went through it so that I can actually not just be someone outside looking in and making an opinion, but like, look, I was in that shit. I know how they operate. I know how they treat people, and I know it's just wrong.
Right. Well, let's start real quick. Like, how did that whole thing evolve?
You mean how did I get involved with Grant?
No. How you just in business, and how did, like, obviously you were running a business.
Yeah.
You then signed up with Grant.
Yeah.
And then how that kind of progressed, and then what happened there. But I'm wondering, like, how did you even get to that point? Like, you don't graduate high school and say, I'm going to go sign up with Grant Cardone.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because not a lot of people have asked me that prior to.
It's got to be a progression.
Absolutely. So I'm actually glad you asked that question. So, you know, I was a carpenter for 10 years for one company, building like Victorian glass glazed sunrooms and a lot of outdoor living improvement.
Okay.
Very specialty trade. And I decided, you know, I was meant for something more, had this hair up my ass, you know, I'm like, dang, man, this can't be it. You know, I was looking at the 65-year-old guy working next to me that I've been working with 9 years, and he just looked miserable. And I just knew I didn't want to do that. So, you know, growing up without a father figure, I was kind of always looking and for someone to look up to, that also type thing.
Right.
But I knew that individual wasn't somebody I wanted to look up to. I just didn't want to work my ass off into physical labor until I was 65 into retirement. So there was a lady that I built a sunroom for throughout the years. She became a friend. I did a bunch of side work for her. And what happened was she always said, like, hey, we're gonna go into business together at some point. You know, I thought she was joking, but then it became something. You know, and next thing you know, me and her are going to seminars, trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Trying to figure out what business we wanted to get into. We looked into everything, gemology, oh God, Subway franchise, real estate, just all these random things that she kind of was into too. And by the way, she was like a mentor figure to me. She had everything that a person would want. She's got the multi-million-dollar house on the lake, the yachts, the boats, the jet skis, the sunroom, her own workout gym, all that stuff, right? So I seen that and I was like, dang, whatever she's doing, she must be good at. It's working, yeah. And so I was like, I should probably model and stay close to her, get in proximity, as they say. And so, you know, what I didn't know until I got into business with her was that she was really all about the money at all costs, and she really would even treat people like shit to get the money. But what happened was we ended up going, out of all the businesses we looked into, we went into black operation marijuana growing business.
What's black illegal? Illegal.
Yeah. And we just found a location. You put my carpentry skills to the test. I didn't know anything about it other than at that time I smoked it. You know, I was a pothead. And I built out this operation. Probably took 9 months. Put in a lot of the natural gas, all this stuff, just YouTube and figuring out how to do it. 9 months later, we're running a $500,000 grow operation, and next thing you know, I'm peddling this shit to people I don't know on the streets by the pounds. and I'm getting shot at, and I'm getting robbed. I talk about,
but you're saying it's legal.
no, this was 2015. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
So this
You
is
said
2015.
illegal.
Yeah, it was illegal.
Okay.
So this is right.
Oh, that's different than a gym business.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, I guess
started
that's an
this off
important
where
note.
we're looking for real estate. You mention all these legitimate things, and then you go into
an illegal operation.
Illegal operation. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm glad you pointed that out because yes, I went from looking into an actual legal business and
why am I so much more interested now that he said it illegal? That's right. If that's something's wrong with me that I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah,
I gotta work on that.
The importance in that though, the importance of it being illegal shows you how money driven I became.
Right.
I literally didn't care about that.
Yeah.
I just seen money signs and she was telling me the same thing. Out of all the businesses that she looked at, she already owned real estate at that time. For some reason, she thought growing marijuana and selling a black market was the way we were going to make millions. And I bought into that idea. And like I said, next thing you know, here I am, 2015, right on the verge of where it was becoming legal and the prices were changing, black market because of that. All these things were happening. But yeah, I got shot at a couple times. I got robbed. And then when that happened, I got tired of peddling locally. So I started mailing it like 10 pounds at a time through the mail across the states. And I just got stupid.
Right.
Chasing money.
How did you get robbed? You showed up someplace to give them the stuff and they didn't have the money. They just pulled a gun?
Yeah, so I talk about that story in the first book I wrote. Okay. And I basically met a dude, didn't know, he was just telling me where to go. I ended up at a gas station and he showed up with 2 other people. So now there's 3 dudes standing by my truck and I told him, I used to have them get in the vehicle.
Right.
And then I would show them the product and then they would exchange the money with the product. They go their own way. Well, I told them, I was like, hey, you guys can't all be in my vehicle. So I was like, have them 2 wait over there. You can look at it. And so he's sitting in the passenger seat, and I guess there's his brother or cousin or something like that. And he's looking at it, right? And I had wasn't that much. It was like 3 pounds or something. And he's smelling it, and he's like, yeah, this looks good. He's like, my brother's paying for half. Can he come look at it? And I was like, fuck. I was like, fine. And so next thing you know, I got all 3 of them standing right by my door with the door open. I was stupid anyway. It's a stupid idea to just even go into the business in general.
I was going to say, it's a bad idea. There's just a bad situation.
It's just all bad. Around, right? Yeah. And next thing you know, he snags it. They take off running. And it was just instinct. I built that. Not only, it wasn't like I just grew this weed. I built out a 4,000 square foot location to build this and grow it and learn how to do this. So my investment in this whole thing was just, I was like so attached to that. And so my instinct was to chase them. Here I go squealing tires, chasing these guys. And then next thing you know, they're 2 of them split, go through houses. And one guy just literally, I'm hanging out the window like, hey, motherfuckers, give me my stuff back, just because I was just emotional. Turns around, pulls a gun and just fires 2 shots at me, pop, pop. And it was just so unreal. I've never been shot. I've never been in that type of,
right.
I've been in some, like gangster type situations when I was younger, but never guns involved.
Right.
And it was just so surreal. Next thing you know, I automatically fight or flight instincts kick in. I leave, park up the road. I'm just hearing sirens go on, and then call up my next guy. I'm getting ready to go meet, and I was like, dude, I just got robbed and shot at. He was like, really? Did they hit you? And I just started checking my body, because I've seen movies, like, oh, you could be shot and you don't even know it with the adrenaline. So I'm like looking at my bodies and all these emotions are just going over me. And I look out the window and there's 2 bullet holes right in the side of my truck, like literally right where the armrest would be when you're hanging out your truck.
Right. And
yeah, it just, this rush came over me. I could not believe that it hit the door. I'm looking like, where did they go?
Yeah. This is the industry I'm in. I'm getting shot at.
Exactly.
He could have hit me dead in the forehead.
All these things coming. Exactly. I'm just like,
for a guy running and pulling a trigger and to be that close.
Oh, he's probably
that's pretty close.
50 to 60, maybe 70 feet away. It was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. And I didn't know what happened. It was dark still. And so, what's even crazier is I still continued the night and I had 2 more appointments to go to after that and still continue. You would think that after that, I would just be like, screw this, I'm going home. I didn't. Went and sold, whatever I had left. But then the next morning, shine a light in the door and find out that both bullets hit this little 1/2-inch piece of metal that kind of guides the window up and down in the door. Right. Hit it and stayed in the door, thank God. But that's what happened. And so anyways, I know that we're kind of going off on a side trail, but it is important. No one really talks to me about this much, other than the only time I really get to talk about that is when I talked about it in the book. But it is important, especially when we're talking about mentorship and how I kind of gravitated towards that and why I got into these type of situations. And I think, just lack of, a father figure and stuff like that, and just kind of chasing money and just being so misguided, as I call it. Got me into those situations. So after 2 years of doing that, I decided, dude, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm jeopardizing my life, my freedom. I got a daughter. I'm a single dad. Like, I'm sitting here doing all this. So it was pretty wild, man. So then I pretty much started all over, scratch, and I went back to the construction industry.
What happened to the female business partner?
I left her. I just separated. Yeah.
You didn't say, here, take all this stuff, kick rocks?
Yeah, I did. I said, You can have everything. I don't want nothing. Take it. I don't care. My sweat equity in the building that I built out, like, we basically converted a 10 unit RV garage, made it look like a garage,
right?
Phony doors on the front and all that, but on the inside, I actually built out walls and there's 12 mini splits and you name it. It was a pretty massive operation. So I'm glad I walked away from that. Found out that was not the industry for me. And it was just such a intense way of living, man, stressful and all that stuff. So anyways, like I said, I just started thinking more about, I thought I was thinking about my daughter because I was trying to make a better life with the money part, but I realized, like, dang, man, really just chasing money and for the wrong reasons. And this is all, anyways, that's where I started my own company. And I decided, well, I'm not going to go crawling back to my previous employer. And then my nephew just planted the seed. He's like, you should start your own business. And that's the night I drew my logo. It hit me and I was like, wow, okay. Drew the logo, and yeah, it's the same logo I've used 6 years to this day.
Where's the logo?
I can show you on my phone. You want to see it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I figured it'd be one of the tattoos. I thought you were going to pull up your sleeve and be like,
oh, that'd be funny. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happened going into that industry, man. And, I did well for myself in that company, scaled it. And I did through, like, the honorable way, meaningful connections, like caring about people, donating a lot of time. I really, it's right there.
Okay.
So yeah, there you guys go. Precision patio covers and sunrooms. If you're looking for some outdoor living improvement, reach out to us. So yeah, that's how I did it. And here I am, about a year and a half in on that company, doing well. And right before COVID.
Was it just you, or did you have a couple guys?
I started out with me. Yep. Trying to wear all the hats, trying to market, sell, wearing the tool belt, my taxes, all that stuff.
Right.
Google ads, you name it. I was literally trying to learn how to do all that stuff. And I did. Right. And I was. And then I did pretty well. Started getting a couple employees, and then now it was like 3 of us, but I was still working on site. And then quickly found myself making some results in the advertising and the marketing and getting like a local presence there. We had a good reputation. So my phone started ringing quite a bit while I was on the job site. I had to stop and take off the tool belt and answer the phone a dozen times. So I was like, wow, I think I need to take it to the next level, get off the job site, and maybe have these guys start running these jobs for me. And that's where I kind of
bring in more jobs that way and more employees. And
so that's kind of where I started working on the business more than in it, but I still was working in it, but just not much on the labor side. And it's just growing and networking and kind of going to Chamber of Commerce, home shows, stuff like that. Really just getting my face out there. Very active on my face is all over that page. Like I'm always doing content. So a lot of the customers know me. I'm not just a product and a service. I'm actually a face behind the company and a person that lets you know who I am, how I operate, my morals, my ethics, how I treat my employees. So that was another thing that people liked about me. And that's one of the things I share too. Now that I coach people in business, it's like, you don't be afraid to show who you are. But going back to that, that's kind of how I got into Grant. My nephew gave me the 10X rule book, and here I am listening to this guy. He sounds pretty, self-proclaimed successful. He's he really strokes his own image, right? And then you see him everywhere on social media and stuff. So it almost kind of got that feel. It's like, dang, okay, maybe he is pretty successful. And he just says stuff in a certain way. Thinking about it now, I can see how it kind of gradually happened, but at the time I didn't. And I may have had a little bit of fear, maybe a little bit of uncertainty in me as far as what I'm doing, but generally speaking, I was scaling and doing well still. I mean, here comes someone like him talking in his books and on YouTube, in the audio books I was hearing, him saying stuff like, "You're not doing enough." I'm like, "I'm not." "You're operating at low levels." I'm like, "I am." "You're, a disgrace to your family," whatever. All these things, just planting shit in my head. And I'm a pretty confident dude, even back then, even though I might have been lacking full confidence. For the most part, I knew my capabilities. I've done quite a bit. And still, he got in my head with that shit. And, I take my accountability myself. But he's got some accountability with that too, man. Like the type of stuff that he says really just frames in a way that you need to chase him for the answers, for success. Mm-hmm. He's like a god. He wants to be idolized like a god, man. And that's what it kind of became, man. I literally looked up to that dude quite a bit, and he hit me with the feel stories too of his dad passing away. And my dad didn't pass away, but it kind of like was that he disappeared when I was 3, so I really didn't know him at all. It might as well be dead. So all that stuff really just kind of combined and really had me gravitate. He'd say things like, "You need to get in proximity. You gotta, those who pay attention." There's all these sayings that really get you wrapped up in his organization, and really it's all about you just handing money over. Quickly find out they don't really care about you.
No, I was going to say, it's funny because obviously you and I, we're very different backgrounds. Is that, one, just, being, not that I'm Grant Cardone, but, being in that whole manipulative, getting people to do what you want, kind of mindset, and then going to prison and being surrounded by guys like that, right from, it's not just con men, but I mean, it's like even drug dealers and stuff, they're all kind of hustlers, but it's funny being around them. I feel like I became very in tune with something's not right. You know what I'm saying? You start talking to somebody and you're like, something ain't right.
Yeah.
But when I actually got out of the halfway house and I was staying in someone's spare room, I had a buddy of mine named Steve, and he came and contacted me, and he's like, "Bro, you got to watch this fucking thing with Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort."
Ah, yes.
And I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "Bro, like Belfort makes him look like such a fucking scumbag." And he's like, and he's not even trying. Like, he's trying to help him. You got to watch it. And I was like, "Oh, well, send it to me." So he sends me the thing, and I watch this interaction between the two of them. And Belfort, multiple times during that interaction, is trying to help him. Like, Grant Cardone paints himself into a corner and then starts to sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
And Belfort is kind of trying to let him get, he's like, "Well, I don't understand. You mean like," he's trying to give him, I'm trying to help you get out of this.
Right.
Clearly get out of this corner you've painted yourself into.
You got room to correct.
Right. Like let's go ahead and admit that you've already made 1 or 2 statements that are inaccurate. You only have to change. At this point, you can still get yourself out of it without looking like too much of an idiot. The more he helps him, the more he digs in. The more he digs in, the more unreasonable he looks, the more, of just an idiot he begins to look like. And I was like, this guy is such an overwhelming narcissist. He's unwilling. And there was even a point when in Grant Cardone's face, you can see it where he kind of realizes he's in a bad spot. Like, yeah. I'm starting to look bad. Mm-hmm. But instead of saying, "You know what, scratch that," or even better than that, "This isn't live. Let's redo that. Recut that. I don't want to say what I said. I fucked up. I sound like an idiot." Why not just say that? You can cut it. Nobody will ever have to see it. It's not live. He could have done that.
He didn't even realize what he was saying, though. He doesn't realize how he behaves.
Right. And so I watched that, and then I was like, who is this guy? And I was like, I wouldn't trust this guy for anything. But Belfort kept saying, it's funny, there's always these guys in the comment section that are always asking, like, who's the better salesman? And so I thought, well, so this guy's somebody. So then I start looking him up. and I watched a video of him where he was on stage and he's talking about the people that are in the back of the audience.
Yes, I've heard this many times.
And he's calling them losers.
Yeah, you guys need to be in the front.
Right. And then if
at
you're
another
not,
$10,000.
right, and if you're not making
$400,000
$400,000 a year,
Heard it all, man.
Right. It was like you're a loser, and it was like you just called all of the middle class in the United States losers.
People that are paying him too to be in that room.
Right. You just so the guy that makes $100,000 a year, which is your garbage men who are making 80 and 100,000, which is good money.
Yeah.
The guy that graduated high school, got a job, the guy that paints your house, the guy that does carpentry for you, the guy that empties the garbage, the guy that stocks the shelves, the guy that drives a truck and delivers the food that feeds your fucking children.
Yeah.
You just called them all losers. And I just remember thinking, this guy is a fucking charlatan scumbag.
Yeah.
And yet I have numerous people in the comments, like when I started
Defending him.
Yeah, they love him.
How
and
brainwashed.
And then the whole thing is then I started kind of paying attention a little bit more, right? And then I started realizing like one of the things he does, which is very common, he promises. If you do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then when it doesn't work for you and you've given him everything he can get from you, the reason it didn't work isn't because of me. It's because you.
Yeah.
You're a loser.
Yeah.
You didn't do it right. Go back and start again. You fucked up.
Yeah.
You're the problem, not him. And so I was just like, wow. But then I talk to people all the time. I mean, not all the time. I've actually interviewed. Oh no, we never ran that interview, did we? The guy I had interviewed that was currently on the program with Grant Cardone. This was a guy who was on the program. I started the interview and I think like 30 minutes into it, I canceled it. This was a stream one. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, this isn't, like as he was talking, I feel like we were going kind of back and forth a little bit, not in a bad way.
Like it was a lot of disagreement or something?
It was kind of like a disagreement where it was just like he was so into it and into him.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, this isn't going anywhere. And
he's
also
drinking the Kool-Aid too much at that point, yeah.
And honestly, within 20 to 30 minutes, like basically we were wrapped up. Like I feel like the video was kind of wrapping up and I was like, well, this is 30 minutes. Like I can't run a 30-minute interview about how wonderful Grant Cardone is. Like I don't even, and then, and I'm arguing with someone who's clearly drank the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's just not a productive combo, yeah.
No, and I was just thinking like, I feel like you even know, I think I erased it. But yeah, it was just like, but people do, they fall for him and they love him and they think he's this, greater than thou. But if you, first of all, look, if you can't admit that you're not 100, that you're not, that you're 100% correct all the time, and that there's no, you've got problems. You have mental problems, like
100%. Well,
and one more thing.
Yeah,
I met Podfest. I don't think you ever met the woman. So originally, Podfest, which is a big pod.
It's the first time I heard that, but it sounds fascinating.
So in Podfest, it's all these podcasters that go.
Nice, like a home show for podcasters.
Yeah, thousands of them.
That sounds awesome.
And so they go from all over the place. I think this is the largest one in Florida. I'll probably get a phone call from the guy's name is Chris. Chris will call me and be like, "It's the largest one in the East." Okay, whatever. So it's the largest one in Florida, let's say, whatever, or in this area.
Nice.
And they have all these podcasters that go there, and there's Road Mics is there, and Shure, and there's all this, all these people that are there that are selling equipment and whatever apps and everything to help you be a successful podcaster. And then they have speakers and stuff. It's like 4 days. It honestly, Chris, if you're watching, it really shouldn't be more than 2 days. But but it's super. It's cool. It's cool to hang out with those guys. Although I do feel I got COVID that 2 years ago when I went. Jess and my wife and I got COVID there, and I always say it was those fucking Podfest geeks got me sick with COVID because I was shaking hands with everybody. So, but anyway, so she did all the she did the marketing and setup, and she arranged the event. She's an event coordinator or whatever
for Podfest.
For Podfest, she's worked for Grant Cardone because we were talking to her, and I was like, And I was like, well, and we were talking about Chris, and she's like, yeah, well, Chris wanted to do this and do that because we were talking about speakers. I was like, he should have some big speakers. Like, I don't know any of these people. And she's like, well, he wants it to be for the everyday podcaster or so. And then something came up, and I said, she ended up saying that, like, basically she was like, well, he's easy to work with or something like that.
Who? Grant?
No, this was Chris, who does Podfest.
Oh, okay.
She was talking she was talking good about him, and she said, "You want to hear someone who's a nightmare?" And I was like, sure. And she goes,
"Let me guess,
Grant Cardone."
Yeah.
So I've met 2 people that have dealt with him. One, she said he's an absolute fucking nightmare. She said everybody along the way, from the moment he pulls up in his limousine or whatever and gets out all the way to the stage. She is fucking disrespectful piece of garbage.
Yeah.
She said, then he's disrespectful to everybody there, and then he leaves. He demands all kinds of things. He doesn't want to pay for anything. Now, the second guy I know a guy that built an app for Grant Cardone and ran like this whole, I forget what it was, or whole like media thing going on for him, and did marketing and everything for some kind of an app or something. He said he owed me, I think it was like $250,000. He said he never paid me. And I was like, I believe it. Serious? He said, yeah. He said he paid, at one point he gave us like 40 or 50 grand. He said but then once it was launched and it was in his control, he said, never paid us.
Yeah.
He said, and I could sue him, but he started threatening us. And I was just like 2 people I know that he just, like, why rip people off? Why be an asshole?
now 3.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I believe those stories, man. And that's just how he operates, man. As soon as he gets what he wants from you, absolutely, he's going to treat you like shit, man.
So what happened? So you read the book?
Yeah. I got to tell you something really quick before I lose this on my mind, though. You're talking about like red flags and him not holding himself accountable, right? The first red flag of a leader is if they are not holding themselves accountable,
right?
Or at least wondering their part in the equation on if something dropped.
Yeah, you've contributed something. If something in your organization failed, you contributed in some way.
Yeah, and the sign of a good leader usually goes to the accountability of themselves first.
Right.
They're like, look, I'm sorry. Like if someone invested in me a lot of money or did something with me and they're like, yeah, I had a shitty experience, man. Like, let's just cut ties or something. I would want to know, or if they more specifically like me, ask like, hey, I'd like to have a productive conversation with you to help, have you help me make sense of why you thought this was okay, why you treat people like this.
Right.
I would definitely give them that time. That's the least I could do. Be like, first of all, I'm sorry. What did I do? What can I do? And, I'm not saying that no one on the receiving end didn't have accountability, but it's not up to the leader to put that on them and be like, it was exactly. So first red flag right there. And I've heard that story many times. Matter of fact, I was watching that one girl's interview that talked about her 10X 360 experience, and everything she explained, including stuff like that and that treatment, was the same thing that happened to me, which I can explain. We can get into that too. But the way, not enough is talked about Brandon Dawson, who's Grant Cardone's business partner. He's just as big a piece of shit as he is, man. But yeah, so going back to my story, where were we at with that? Basically,
so your cousin or
my nephew
gave you a book, and you started, and a lot of the stuff that he said resonated with you. You started feeling like, I can do better. Like, I do need to buckle down. I do need to do this. I can't.
Yeah, maybe I am operating at low levels.
Right,
maybe I do need to, invest money and get in proximity and all that.
How do I start adding zeros to what I already have? Like at this point, if you've got a structure, how do I just start multiplying it?
Exactly. And, I've done a couple podcasts on this topic, and a lot of the nastier comments mention greed and like, oh, this happened to you because you got greedy with the money and stuff. And I'm like, it's more than that. That's probably at the lower end of the list of reasons why I did that. It was more the seed planting of the thoughts of like, you're not doing the most you can. You're doing 1X, if you will. You're not fulfilling what you were meant to do. This whole motivational, inspirational type talk, which could be valuable, could be used for good.
Right.
But this was just to get me in proximity with him, get me in the room with him so that he could just upsell the shit out of me. And get me in the back of the room to now make me feel like shit that I'm not at the top of the room. That whole thing, I went through that whole process. And so I ended up getting in the room and, flying out and going to those events, going to Growth Conference, which is his big annual event where he does have like thousands of people there, and he brings all these, celebrities and athletes up that he's paid to go on stage and pretty much talk and uplift and inspire. Really, the value I got out of that was just networking and some relationships. I managed to get some decent relationships of people that actually care for others out of that. But for the most part, that atmosphere is just all the same. People feeding off the same energy of just wanting money, outcomes. They just are there to just shark hunt and prey on people. So, and you're getting upsold the entire time. While you're eating food, you got sales reps coming up to be like, "Hey, have you signed up for the workshop yet? Like $5,000. You in on that, right? I'm not fucking with you, dude. While you're eating food the entire time, you are getting upsold." And so it's.
I was gonna say, do you know Anthony Robbins, right?
Tony Robbins?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Why would I say Anthony?
Well, that's his real name, right?
Yeah. So Tony Robbins, my buddy Zach actually used to work for him, but I've met a few people that have gone there, and they say the same thing. It's constant upselling. But there are people that go to like all they pay to be a part of like a president, like the silver group or the gold group or the presidential group, and so they end up going to these special meetings with him, and
for like $50,000 or something ridiculous.
I have a buddy who basically was telling me that you don't understand. There are groupies there that they bring like pillows and chairs and to sit there because they know they need to be comfortable while they go. Like, and they were like, and the thing is like these people have been doing this for 10 years and they're not successful.
Yeah.
Like this is a real estate agent that makes $90,000 and spends $40,000 a year on Anthony Robbins tickets and books and been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, and doesn't seem to realize that you're now almost in a cult.
Yes.
And you're not getting the benefit of this whole thing. You've been doing it 10 years.
Yeah. Nobody talks about that part. The nobody being successful part. It's funny. There's this chick that been following me, and I reached out to her, but she talked a little bit about this. She has a term. She's like coaching coaches to coach coaches, and I was like, that's exactly what's going on. But none of them are successful. I promise you. I know a lot of them. You can imagine 3.5 years in that organization, being a direct 10X business coach with him and many others, and always being in that room and flying out there twice a year to 10X headquarters. Very small private room, about 50 of us in there, all coaches. None of them are doing well. Maybe one or two of them out of 50, maybe.
Are they making?
And are they doing
$400,000 a year?
No, they are not. No, most of them have not gotten their initial investment, which is usually $25,000 to $30,000. There's $1,000. It's $25,000 to become a coach for him, and there's $1,000 annual fee too. So, and they pretty much promote. It's like an MLM, except you don't. The only difference is you don't. It's not the pyramid scheme. So if there's not, if you. Recruit this person and they recruit four others.
Get something out of them.
Yeah, it's not that. You just get a small commission for recruiting someone, and then you can sell his products like Cardone University, and then all the tickets to all like GrowthCon and all that stuff. I must have made like $2,000 in the entire time I was working for him out of that one investment. That wasn't the only investment. I've spent $40,000 for the 2-day 10X 360 event. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. I've taken the 10X stages twice. I've taken 10X Business Boot Camp. I've done a 10X Business Boot Camp for Grant in Philadelphia for other business owners. I've been around this enough to know they are not successful. It's all bullshit, and none of them are. A lot of it is embarrassment. There's a lot of reasons why people don't talk about that part. Embarrassment's probably, it's not fun for people to say, I spent $100,000 with this guy and I haven't made shit. Matter of fact, I've lost money. That's not fun to talk about.
Right. Well, and then if you throw it on, if you say that and Cardone gets confronted with it, he says, "Oh, that guy, he's a loser."
Yeah, he didn't put the work in.
Yeah.
You'll hear all the no accountability goes right back to that. Well, that's that Scientology bullshit, which we can peel back, which I have only known about for the last month and a half. I didn't even know he was a Scientologist. I didn't even know what Scientology was. the entire time I was with him.
They're waiting for Gugamon or Google
Xenu
to come back on the asteroid or something and bring them to the next level, or
drop some more whatever in a volcano, or I don't know. I heard it too. I was blown away with the whole sci-fi stuff too. I was like, wow, that's what I was involved in. But
so you were the 10X. You went to a seminar. You were being upsold the whole time. So then what happened? Sorry,
I went to a 10X.
I'm pulling you off in different directions.
It's all good, man. Just reel me back. So I was at the 10X, my first 10X.
And he showed up. Is he there at that?
Yeah, he's at the annual event. 100% he's there. There's thousands of people there. That's his main event. I've been to 3. The first 10X business, what do you call it? 10X growth conference. That's his biggest event.
I love the names.
I know, right?
That's great.
They're all dumb. 10X Business Summit, 10X 360.
We need to work on our names. We need growth.
Now
he's throw growth in there.
Now he's got Con. Yeah, Con's got to be in there somewhere. Now he's got 10X Health Systems with Gary Brecka and that whole freaking spiel, which don't get me started on that too. Yeah, that's a whole. And I've met Gary Brecka in person before he was even a partner with Grant when he had his business in Streamline. So I've been around them. My first 10X growth conference, right? I'm there. And Jared Glant's his vice president, the blonde dude that's always talking for Grant quite a bit. He's promoting at that time it's called 10X Grant Cardone licensee, which now is called the 10X business coach. Same thing. I think there's a legal reason why they changed that name. Not sure, but I haven't looked into it, but there's definitely a reason why they did that.
Right.
And I heard him pitch this program. It was a $25,000 one that was mentioned. And I was so into the Kool-Aid at that point myself that I was like, I heard this and I was like, well, I thought Grant had good intentions and like, oh, he's here to, impact 8 billion people or whatever. And
it's about people helping people. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's the message I got. But I ignored the signs and the feeling of it not being that. So here I am. And again, going back to those reasons, people are like, why didn't you leave? I was embarrassed. The FOMO, I found a community that I felt like I fit in. There was always, I'm not embarrassed to admit this shit, dude. Like that's what was going on in my head.
Right.
It's not like it was even on the forefront of my mind. This is just stuff that was going on in the back of my head. And it's clear for me to look back on that now and analyze that and be like, dang, that's what happened. I'm not embarrassed, dude. It happens to the best of them.
I was gonna say, there's tons of people that do it and are in it and stay in it, and just like there's tons of these guys that, especially I think, not having kind of like you were looking for a mentor. You don't really have a father figure. Yeah. You don't really have anybody helping direct your life, which most people do, right?
Yeah.
And then this guy comes around. He immediately fills a need, that void.
Yeah.
So that makes sense because a lot of these people are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I got kids that reach out to me all the time. Can I talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes? I'm going through something and I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like, you could help me and if you could just tell me what to do. And I don't know. And it's like you're reaching out to me because you watch 5 videos on me and you think I'm cool and they see me as like a father figure or something. It's like, first of all, the fact that you think I'm a father figure, that's you've got a whole another set of problems.
Yeah.
But people that, and listen, every one of these kids, no father.
Yeah, I believe
nobody
it.
Or mom. Yeah, no. I had my mom's been married 3 times. Or I've had a couple she's had a couple boyfriends, and it's always like all derelicts.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason they connect with me and they want to talk to me. So it's like there's a void there.
Yeah, they're looking for something. Yeah,
series of people out there that they need that void because honestly, people, especially men, need that.
I agree.
So
and there's a lack of it too.
Right. It's getting worse all the time. So I mean, I totally see that. Like I wouldn't be embarrassed about that.
Yeah, and I'm not, but at the time I was, which is why. And then there's so many reasons. That's why I say there's layers. The ROI. I'm like, I ain't gonna fucking leave this organization until I get my money back. There's all these reasons. Right. Just keeps you in there, man. So when I hear people making these real quick statements like that, it's greed, or you don't hold yourself accountable. Yeah. Boo-hoo. Like, bro. Do I look like I'm crying? Do I look like I'm hurt? Do I look like I'm angry? Like I'm not even hating on him. I think this is the crazy part. I think most people, including Grant, do have a good heart deep down. They're just fucking misguided. They learn the wrong things. They are jacked up in the head. And I do have a sense of a little bit of compassion when it comes to that. My hope is someone like me calling them out and actually being like, look, this isn't the right way to treat people. This isn't the right way to do business. You are damaging people. Wake up. I'm hoping that someone that actually has a huge following like that does wake up, because they have the ability to actually be real positive. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but
I'm hoping he's indicted. I think then he'll get some
that
time.
might be what it takes.
He'll get some time in federal prison. Maybe he'll think about it. Maybe 5 years in federal prison, he kicks back and he thinks to himself, I made some mistakes. Typically guys like that don't. It's everybody else's fault. And then he'll come out and talk about how the government's punishing him for being successful. They don't want him to be successful. But the truth is, if he went to prison and really did some soul searching, he'd realize.
That's what it would take, I think. I don't think he's got enough alone time. And it's funny because you mentioned at some point you were talking about how someone's look in their eyes. I don't remember how you brought that up, but it reminded me of several times. I've brought this up a few times. Like, I've been this far from Grant several times. I was always the dude sitting right up front. And I could just clearly remember the look I seen in his eye, man. Lost, hurting, not confident. He projects so much confidence, but when you're in proximity with him, you look in his eyes, and if you have any level of confidence, you can see it. Mm-hmm. Usually you can see that. You know what I mean? When you got an undeniable amount of confidence and you look at someone else and they are lacking it, you're like, that guy's full of shit.
Well, the truth is most like arrogant people and narcissists, are covering for a lack of, they're covering something.
They're overcompensating.
More often than not, that is the issue, is that it's insecurity that has them behave that way.
Yeah.
That's why typically a bully, like if somebody stands up to them and slaps them in the face,
they don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
Yeah. I've seen it happen. I've been in that scenario.
Right. Where it's like, so that's not because they're overly confident. It's because, oh shit, this guy's calling my bluff, and I don't really have anything to back it up.
Yeah. Well, it's intimidating to the dude that's projecting false confidence, and now like, dang, that's real confidence right there. Right. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
Anyways, going back to what we were saying, like I could see that coming a mile away, and now looking back at it, it's like, dang, of course he looked that way. That's the look I seen in him. He's just hurting, man. And that's something I talk about a lot, man. And that's a whole separate topic. A lot of these guys are pushing and promoting financial freedom and passive income and all that. Nobody talks about mental freedom. Like, for God's sakes, you're in a mental prison. Most of these guys teaching you stuff are mentally jacked up. And if you can't see that, you're going to get sucked into that rabbit hole and get lost yourself. If you don't know yourself, you can easily get pulled into an area like I did. And like going back to what we were just talking about a minute ago, it happens to the best of them. I've been in several rooms with self-proclaimed billionaires and millionaires and seeing dudes at the highest level just engrossed in idolizing him, and also having that same look in their eye. Just like it caught my attention. I just didn't know what it was at the time.
Right.
And looking back at it now, it's like, that's exactly what it was. These dudes are all just living a phony ass life, and they don't know themselves, man. They're just regurgitated robots that sit here and adopt someone else's mindset. Everybody says the same thing.
They all do say the same
thing. They do the same thing. And gosh, now I got to talk about this because
I was gonna say, the only guy I listen to that kind of says pretty much the same thing is Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, I like him.
I like him.
Yeah.
I don't like, and because I love that he says on the YouTube videos, he's like, listen, you don't have to come see me. I'm saying the same stuff at these shows that I'm saying right here. Like, there's only so much. And he's like, do I say the same thing over and over again? He's like, yeah, I do. Like, he's not, he's very realistic with what his message is. And he's like, look, you want to see me in person? Great. There's an event. You can go. But don't get fooled. I'm not going to tell you anything other than you maybe having the opportunity to have me answer a question directly to you. You're going to get the same stuff I'm giving you for free on the videos.
Yeah, I love that. That's authentic.
Right. Listen, that to me, now I want to go see you.
100%. What's cool, the difference between a guy like Gary V and a guy like Grant and all these other self-serving entrepreneurial vultures I call out, is that they frame these guys over here, guys like, and I'll just name call them. I call them out all the time. Andy Elliott, Wes Watson, Grant Cardone's like the top 3 people I call out all the time.
Right.
Because they're out here bullying people. But what they do is they'll frame it and they'll use words like need, you should. Like, you need to get in proximity. You need this course. You need to get in the room. You should do this. Gary Vaynerchuk, and I resonate with that because that's the direction I go now, is like, he's really just telling you, you have everything inside of you. Right. You have all the tools that you need inside of you. Just get in touch with yourself, know yourself, all the right like communities, resources, opportunities, all that shit that you used to chase before. That all happened naturally, and the right moments are going to happen at the right time, and you're going to know it because it's going to be an undeniable feeling. Like your conscience is just going to tell you like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't want something from me, doesn't want my money. And it's just going to feel right instead of you forcing that and just like kind of doing this with something that,
right.
And that's what's going on. That's a difference between those two. This guy's uplifting you by telling you like you have it. You don't need to do anything. You shouldn't do anything. It's up to you to discern the right things to get involved in. And then these guys are like, you need this from me. I got the answers.
Right.
Come to me for success. I'll show you the promised land. It's like, that's the difference, man.
Right. Well, and like I said, and then when it doesn't go well, it's because it's your fault.
Right.
Well, I thought you had the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Then it shouldn't be your fault. You know what I'm saying? And then, but they've got that. And the thing is that then they go to bed that night and sleep like a baby on their $10,000 mattress and their $2,000 silk sheets or
Yeah. Well, Grant. Oh yeah. So going back to the main point I was going to bring up, that I heard that woman. God, what is her name? Rebecca Hamilton. I'll name drop her. She did a post talking about her 10x 360 experience, and that's basically with Cardone Ventures, which is a partnership between Brandon Dawson and Grant Cardone. That's the same course I took. She mentioned in there, amongst other things, that they are not doing what they say they're doing. And I called Grant on this immediately when I separated myself, because I noticed that they were ghosting me. Before I even decided to leave, I was like asking for a refund for the first time ever in 3 years, and over a couple $100,000 worth of money. I bought a diamond ticket, front of the room ticket, right? $7,500 per ticket. I bought 3 of them, one for my 10-year-old daughter, and stupid, right? What difference? Right, let's just talk about that. Does it make a difference spend $7,500, which was a discount, usually to $10K, versus whatever was it, $1,000 at the back of the room? There was no difference. You're still all in the same room. Nothing happened. Nobody gave me a foot massage or anything up at the front of the room. Nothing different happened.
Right.
And it's all glorified bullshit. But anyways, my daughter couldn't make it. She had an emergency, couldn't make it. So I was like, hey, she can't make it. Can I just get a refund off that, And they were like, nah, we actually can't refund. And I was like, that's bullshit, dude. I'm not only a 10X business coach, but I spent lots of money with you guys. I think I deserve a refund. Like, oh, okay, well, we'll talk to the higher ups about it. After months, probably 9 months, back and forth, going back, and they're like, oh, I'm like, hey, did you talk to higher ups yet? Yeah, we're still waiting. Probably 30 plus emails back and forth. The last 10 emails or so was just me reaching out saying, did you get an update yet? Let me know what's going on. Hey, bro, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? They just ghosted me.
Right.
Like, I would rather have someone like tell me fuck off than act like they're going to do something.
Did I just say that in the last podcast I talked to?
Did you?
I said the exact same thing.
Tell me no.
Tell me to go fuck myself.
Something.
Don't just fucking not respond.
It's so inauthentic to do that,
it's
man.
Listen, first of all, it's not businesslike. You're
Especially.
holding yourself out. You're holding yourself out as a professional.
Yeah.
Behave like a professional.
Yeah.
That's not hard. It's not hard.
They could have told me no. They did tell me no, but when I pressed a little bit more, they could have been like, you know what? We can't do anything. There's nothing we can do.
Right.
Don't leave me on and then ghost me. First of all, that's something they promote, right? Like, they would never encourage you to ghost somebody. They welcome the haters, right? They like, oh, haters are good. They're all good for this and that. And the next thing you know, they start calling me a hater and calling me a suppressive person, right? As they call in Scientology. All of a sudden I started getting the real treatment, right? And then, and then I realized like, wow, this is way too many red flags for me to ignore. I think I'm done. And then I gave them a very straightforward yet also professional email saying I'm voluntarily leaving this organization. Get rid of my email. Discontinue my 13 Cardone University accounts, whatever. In the meantime, I want to invite Grant Cardone to have a conversation with me. I want to know why he thought it was okay to treat me the way he does, teach me the things he has. I think it's the least you guys owe me. And the next thing you know, they're blocking me on social media. Not only him, but like his wife and everybody that is in the organization. It's like, it's a whole, now the cult aspect started coming out of him. Like,
Right.
why would somebody so confident block me? Or like, I thought you liked the haters. I thought the haters, and then, yeah, going back to what I originally was saying though, these guys do not do what they say they're going to do. And that's another red flag of a leader. If they're not operating, if they're not actually practicing what they preach, it's bullshit. They don't have the confidence. They're very unethical, and they're not going to take accountability for anything. They're just there for an outcome or your money or something. There's a ulterior motive involved with that. But a very real thing that's going on right now is just people projecting and promoting things to do that they don't do themselves. And it's not talked about enough, man. All three of those guys I called out do the same thing.
What do you know anything about like Grant Cardone and this people? He's got people investing in some kind of real estate venture that seems like it's a Ponzi scheme practically, or it doesn't seem like it seems like it doesn't seem like it is what he is promoting it to be.
Nothing is.
Right.
Anything coming out of his mouth is not what it seems. So I'll tell you that. So I'll tell you what I know about the real estate. I never invested in it myself. I've got people that have invested in Cardone Capital. I've been obviously upsold several times on Cardone Capital, even for $1,000. They're like, you don't even have to be a accredited investor. You could just give us $1,000 even. And it's like, it's just weird and unprofessional. But
You don't have to be an accredited investor.
yeah,
That doesn't sound right.
yeah.
You need to be an accredited investor to do that. And that's just filling out a piece of paper anyway.
Oh, really?
Accredited means that you're agreeing that you have a net worth of that you're experienced in investing, and that you have a net worth of over what, like $200,000 or $300,000. Like, it's honestly, it's really just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But they're trying to say, like, you don't even have to say that you are, just give us the money.
Yeah, they're promoting that you can be a non-accredited investor and come in even in $5,000 or less. Even for a minimum of $1,000, you can invest in that. But, if you think about it, I don't know if you've heard Grant Cardone say this, like buying a house is...
Oh, yeah. Buying a house. I would never buy a house. That's a horrible investment. You're an idiot.
Yet, here's another example. If they don't practice what they preach, he owns 2 homes himself.
Right. Well, here, look, it's a whole thing. Listen, it's the same thing with the 400,000. Let me tell you what the middle class is. Okay, coming from what's Joe Rogan coming from a Neanderthal. Okay, coming from a Neanderthal. Okay, who owned a financial institution, by the way, who owned a brokerage business, right, for years. It was licensed. I was an FHA approved lender, VA, subprime, conventional. We were approved with over 50 different investors. I own a mortgage a brokerage business. So, have a little bit of experience, not maybe a lot.
Was that you talking to me about the boiler room? Was that you? Or someone else? That must have been someone else. Was it like that movie Boiler Room?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Different thing.
But what people don't realize is that, first of all, middle class in America doesn't make $400,000.
No.
So Grant's calling more than half of America losers.
Yeah.
But let's put that aside. The average person who works at some job, let's say you're working at Walmart and you don't pay into a 401k. I don't even know if they have one. You have no retirement. What you're thinking is, I've got a low-level, entry-level job, right? Which really doesn't pay me enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that the largest organization out there that has the most employees receiving government subsidies is Walmart?
No.
So a huge chunk, something like I'm going to give you a number, like 17 or 18 or 20%, something like that, of their employees are actually on some kind of like food stamps or Section 8
government assistance. Yeah.
Right. So these people basically the average Walmart employee is lower middle class, but they're working. Well, you're telling me that you don't think those people should buy houses. Let me explain what those people have to try and buy houses. Here's why.
I think so.
When they retire, they'll only have Social Security. So if those people are being told by someone like Grant Cardone, oh, don't buy a house, well, then you're a fucking jackass. Because if they're 30 years old and you can manage to buy a house, and by the way, there's lots of programs that will allow you to buy a house if you just have even semi-decent credit. Mm-hmm. There's FHA, 3% down.
3%, yeah.
A lot of first-time home buyer programs that will give you up to $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for your down payment. You never have to make a payment. They just stick it on your house, and then it slowly dissipates over 15 years, and eventually it's not even there. So let's say you buy your house, you get a 30-year mortgage. By the time you're 60, or let's say 60 to 65, your house is paid off. Now, granted, the AC broke and you had to replace it. You had to fix a roof. You had to do little things over the years.
House problems, yeah.
But if you're smart and you say, look, I know there's going to be problems with this house and I don't have a landlord, so I'm going to have a little savings and I'm going to put $25 or $50. I'm going to put $50 a week away, put a couple $100 a week or $100 a month, put $100 a month away. And in 3 years from now, when the AC goes out, I have $3,000. I can fix it, or little things like that. So if you take those into consideration, and in 30 years, your mortgage is paid off, you now own your house.
Yeah.
Social Security, if your home is paid off, is enough to live on. If your home is paid off.
Good point.
But if you think that you're going to get your $2,100 or your $1,900 Social Security check, and you're going to be able to pay your rent of $1,900 or $2,200 a month, you're fucked, bro.
Yeah.
That's your whole check. But if you have your mortgage paid off, you can survive on that. It's not great, but it's probably going to be about what you were getting out at Walmart, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
You're going to get free.
It's still an asset to work with too.
Right.
You could always take equity out. You can get a smaller house. Maybe, I don't know. There's options.
Right. Now you have options.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't even matter what the interest rate is. Because the bottom line is rent is 100% interest.
Yeah.
And a 7% interest rate on a mortgage is still has it paid off in 30 years. So the fact that he would tell people not to buy a house to keep renting is such an asshole thing to say.
It serves his agenda. His agenda is to have you invest with him.
Right.
So he's like, give me, I know people personally in the organization that literally took out their 401k to invest in Cardone Capital.
But why not clarify that? Why not say, listen, for people that are making over, but to say, one, you're all losers. Two, well, why not say, hey, listen, I'm saying for people in this income bracket, it's probably better to do this.
Yeah.
From this income bracket down, one, try and get out of that income bracket. Okay. But two, if you can't, and you think this is the income bracket I'm going to be in, and I'm okay with that, which is fine, then you should buy a house.
Yeah.
And because here's why, and then explain why. But the fact that he's so dismissive of 50 to 60 million people that are lower middle class in this country.
It's probably 80% now. Last I checked, it was 76% of the economy.
Dickhead.
That was, it's very, lacking a lot of it just serves his agenda. Like I said, he wants you to he's planting seeds in your head. I bought that too. I bought that stupid advice like, oh, wow, it is kind of dumb to buy a house, right? That's how brainwashed I got too. Like, he can get in your head, man. And that's the problem with like inspirational dudes, because he can be an inspirational guy, right?
Right.
He's just using it for wrong.
Yeah.
And that's one of the examples. So anyways, going back to, by the way, since I've been doing podcasts talking about Grant, I've had many, many, many people reaching out every day. I'll have a new message from somebody saying, dude, awesome that you're talking about this.
Right.
Like, you got balls calling this guy out. I mean, he's suing John Legere now for $100 million. Like,
well, you know who else? I think he sued Mike Winnett. Mike Winnett was calling out these fake gurus.
Yeah.
I think he sued Mike Winnett too.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. You can't threaten me with that
to try
shit.
and shut him. Like he literally stopped putting anything out for like 6 months until he eventually had to settle something. He's like, I didn't even say anything wrong, but the fact is, he's like, this guy's got millions and millions of dollars and lawyers on staff to just continually sue people.
Yeah, that's why it continues to go on, though. Everybody's scared,
right?
And I have been getting a lot of messages of people who are like, dude, I know what you're talking about. Grant ripped off my grandma for $100K or whatever. Like, these stories are just coming out. Like, I can't talk about this, but the fact that you're talking about it is awesome. So it's a very real thing that's happening, man. And that whole not buying a house just serves. Don't buy a house. Instead, invest with me. Give me $1 million, and I'll give you whatever, $200 or $300 for the next 30 years or something stupid like that. I don't know how that works, but it's like, why wouldn't I just do something with the money I already have? It doesn't make any sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because it's just serving his agenda and what he wants to do. And he just wants all your money, man. It's just a freaking cash grab at all costs. But, going back to another thing that came to my mind that we haven't really talked about, that I talk about quite a bit, is shaming people and bullying them,
Right.
all three of those dudes I call out, aside from Grant, do the same thing, dude. Whether it's shaming them for their body or for their bank account, I relate it to Stockholm syndrome. You know, like making it seem like, you know, talking shit to them,
Right.
belittling them, degrading them. Trust me, I'm all about being direct and firm and calling people out, but I think there's a way to uplift people, and the way these guys are doing it is not the way to do it.
Right.
So what they're doing is that they're shaming them, belittling them, telling them your bank account's low, you're operating low levels, you're fat, you're out of shape, you're doing the wrong things right now. And then they turn around and say, I'm telling you this because I care about you. And I'm like, and then the people hearing this are like, oh yeah, maybe he does care about me. And they start getting brainwashed and shit. And then they think that they're actually being cared for when they're really just being bullied and shamed. And now they're just being, it's framed again. Chase me for the answers. Like, you're doing it wrong. I'm doing it right.
I'm your
Come to
savior.
me. Yeah. And it's Stockholm syndrome is what I call it, man. Like literally they're like, oh, he does care about me. No, pay attention to the signs. Like you can feel when it's, you can see people's faces too when they're being told stuff like this. Like your bank account's low. Like you're a disgrace to your family. You're fat. Like you could literally see their facial expressions are just like, and they're like convincing themselves. So it's a very real thing that needs to be talked about more,
Right.
is the bullying part, because that's a big key aspect.
Oh,
And
you
these
can
guys
tell that
hooking
when he's
your
on,
ass.
when he's on stage talking shit to people that just paid him fucking $1,000 or $10,000 just to be here. I didn't come here so you could tell me I'm a fucking loser.
Yeah.
Hold on. Watch this. Colby, do you know what Stockholm syndrome is? Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
Why don't we explain it? Because maybe I don't know the true definition of Stockholm syndrome. I think I do.
So Stockholm syndrome is from Stockholm, Sweden, where some bank robbers went in and they took over a bank. And they held the bank for, obviously, I don't know the exact number. Let's say 4 days, 5 days, whatever.
So you know the whole origin story. I love this.
Yeah.
Now I got to look into it.
So what happened is, so whatever, let's say 5 days later. 5 days later, when these guys finally the Swedes, and I want to say it was the Swedes, when they finally rush it, right? Like these guys are like, oh, they want a plane. They want, like, you're never getting any of that. So,
Right.
But these, let's say, I don't know if it was 10 people or 20 or whatever, but let's say these 20 hostages. These guys are calling out to the police. You have to bring us in pizzas. We have to feed these people. Bring us in this. Bring us in this. This person needs medicine. Get them the medicine. So what happens is, even though these people are hostages, they've kidnapped these people.
Right.
They're also taking care of them.
Yeah.
And so 10 days later, when the Swedes finally say, "Fuck you guys, we're coming in," and they go in with their version of a SWAT team. They knock the windows in and they fucking rush in with their guns and everything. Literally, hostages stand up and jump in front of them and say, "No, no, don't kill them. Don't kill them. Don't.
Protecting
their kidnappers."
Wow. That's wild, man.
Because in their mind, it's much like a child, right? A child who is beaten by a parent but doesn't want to be taken away from the parent. Yes, this parent is abusing me, but this parent keeps a roof over my head. They feed me. They drive me to school. They're taking care of me.
Yeah.
Don't hurt my daddy, right? Same thing with a battered woman. You know, why are you letting this man beat you? Because I love him. It's like, and it's not
he
love.
loves me.
Right. It's Stockholm syndrome. He pays all the bills. He brings home food. He brings home money. He's protecting me. He's taking care of me. The truth is you have Stockholm syndrome is what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Another example of it is it's a woman who was kidnapped. She's coming home one day with her boyfriend. She gets kidnapped. She's filthy rich. Well, her family is. They grab her. I'll remember it later on tonight. Like 2 a.m. I'll wake up. And I'll be like, oh. They take her. They put her in. So this is the I want to say the Black Liberation Army or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I probably got the name wrong. And this was back in, I'm going to say the 70s. Probably wrong. It's probably the 60s. But they grab her, they put her in a closet, and they make her read propaganda about the Liberation Army or whatever it's called. They make her read all this propaganda for days. They keep her in there. They're feeding her. They let her go to the bathroom. They bring her back. They don't rape her. They don't do anything horrible to her.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're converting her, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I knew it.
Within about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, by the way, her family comes in. They actually, I think they do a drop of food. Like the things that these guys are asking for, like we want you to bring food for the poor and drop it off here. And her family does it.
Yeah.
But literally, I want to say maybe 2 weeks or 2 months later, I don't know the time frame exactly, but she actually becomes one of them.
Yeah.
And they go in and rob a bank.
Jeez.
She
went all in.
She goes in with like an AK-47.
Wow.
And robs a bank with him. Like she was, I'm so angry that I can't remember her name. But
you have to put it in the comments when you remember. That's a very real thing, though. That
absolutely.
And nobody's talking about that part enough.
Very quickly, they brainwashed her. It wasn't like it wasn't a massive amount of time.
Yeah.
They didn't have to harm her, physically harm her. They simply had her in a vulnerable position. And she got converted very quickly. So
isn't that crazy?
They just wiped out 25 years of your life and what you know is right and wrong. And in a month or so, you're robbing.
When you put that in perspective like that, that is wild, actually. And yeah, like you said, they didn't harm her, but in fact, they took care of her. And that's
the
crazy.
big thing. They are you okay? Are you cold?
Yeah.
Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do
That's
you need
wild,
food?
man.
Are you hungry? Look, like nobody's going to hurt you. That kind of thing. So very quickly and it's like a battered child will, they will cozy up to their abuser.
Yeah.
Because they think if I get close enough and make this person like me, then it won't, then and they're taking care of me. They won't abuse me as badly.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to garner favor with this person. It's the same kind of mentality. It's survival.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the fact that it's in this entrepreneurial space it's almost hard for people to believe that. I brought this comment up several times in the comments on some of the podcasts I did, and someone was giving me some pushback on it. They're like, that's not Stockholm syndrome. I'm like, you don't know what that is, brother. Like I'm telling you that's straight up Stockholm syndrome. If you pay close attention, these people do not care about you, and no matter how much they claim they do, it's tough when someone's just like, you're fat. Right. And they're like, I'm caring about you. Right. And their tonality's changing. And, it can be tricky for someone going back to not knowing yourself. If you don't know yourself very well and your intuition, your conscience is all clouded and foggy, you're going to fight with that. But when you know yourself and you're in tune with that shit, it's undeniable. It's like, bro, you do not care for me. Like that is not the way to uplift people. And I can tell, like, I don't care how soft you're talking. I don't care how false compassion you're projecting. Like that's not how you care for people, man. So I just think there's a more effective way of uplifting people, and it's not being done enough. And Gary Vee, you mentioned, that's a great example of how you actually should be uplifting people, and that's what I do. I would never tell anybody when it comes to, because I coach people in business. Like I'm about to convert that into 3 different businesses. And I would never tell somebody, you need this from me. You should do this. I went from one extreme to the next, dude. Like I went from what Grant teaches, which is shove, push, right. Negotiate, hard questions, close, follow up, and then some more follow up. I went from that to never even asking for the business. That's pretty wild. Some people won't agree with that, and they're gonna be like, bro, you gotta ask for the business. I don't think you do. I don't think people need help making a decision. Like all this shit I don't agree with. Like I'm a big firm believer of providing like massive upfront free value too. And all that stuff's just going to happen naturally. Like I couldn't, my training, I built an online training platform with Brad Lee over at Lightspeed. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the guy who actually built everybody's training system I mentioned.
Right.
Grant Cardone, Wes Watson, and Andy Elliott. So this is what's actually the fascinating part about this. That was the best investment I ever made out of this whole entrepreneurial journey, because he's actually a pretty stand-up dude. What you see is what you get. And these guys, I'm going to see them in person eventually at these events, whether I'm publicly speaking at this event or we're doing something together. Like I'm going to see them. I'm like, hey, did you guys not get my... there's a bunch of funny things happening, dude. I'm like, calling them out to boxing matches and stuff. And a lot of people are like, bro, they would kill you.
Right.
Oh, they're twice your size. And I'm
Wes
like,
Watson. This is the Wes Watson. You're hounding Wes Watson.
I've called all 3 of them out to a boxing match. And I'm not even a boxer. I've just only gotten into it the last couple months from a guy I met in London who a bare knuckle boxer trainer guy. But I'm just trying to prove a point. They will never step up. They all have false confidence, and I'm willing to go in the ring. If they're like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, fucking perfect, dude. I'm not even thinking about losing. Like, I'm probably gonna win, to be honest. Even being twice my size, dude. Like, anyways, whole side thing. It's almost, that part's just almost comical at this point. But I was really just trying to come at their ego and their masculinity a little bit, because I know that that's all they care about usually.
Right.
And so they can't hide for too long, and me pick and prod at that before they're like, oh, this guy's all right. He's pushed a button.
I love the Wes Watson thing. Like it's funny because there are these guys that they come on, and as soon as they start talking about prison stuff, it's like, I haven't been in California State Prison, but I'm pretty sure I've met plenty of people that have, and it's not as bad as you're making it sound. And then come to find out, then as I started investigating Wes Watson, it was like a lot of it's like, okay, this is extreme. Like, people don't behave like you're behaving in any situation, especially not prison. Like, your own people wouldn't let you behave that way. And then as you keep looking into it, you start to realize you were never in California.
It's all bullshit, yeah.
You were, but then they housed you in like Arizona. And you weren't in a pen, a level 4 yard. You were in a medium. So, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the, and you weren't in for 10 or 11 years. You were in for like 7. And you weren't and you were in protective custody for a portion of that time. And you were like, all the things that you're saying are false.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've seen those videos. There are a couple people really pulling back the layers on
Right.
that stuff and facts checking. I love that.
and then his people come after you. You're just hating. No, I'm not hating. I actually am okay with the things that Wes Watson says.
Yeah.
For instance, I'll give you an example. Is Andrew Tate. 80% of what Andrew Tate says, other than his viewpoint on women, on I should be able to have 5 wives, and my wife can't do this and can't do, like, all right, you're a little extreme. But 80% of the things that he says, where it's like, hey, I think if you're a guy and you're not attracting women, or you don't have the job, then it's not the women's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah.
You need to start working out. You need to educate yourself. You need to be a leader. You need to you need to elevate yourself and change yourself to become the person that is attracted to these women.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
He
turned me off when he said, God, I don't know if you've seen that video. He was just like talking about like, I'm above you.
Oh, yeah,
I'm better than you.
Like I said,
just get in line and follow me.
Like I said, 80%.
That part really rubs me wrong. Like, this guy's full of
80%,
himself.
80%.
Yeah. And you're not going to agree with everybody fully
Right.
anyway. That's
Yeah.
just reality.
Right.
So.
I mean, there's lots of people that, it's funny because, I shouldn't even say this. But like, for instance, like, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
he was at a growth con.
Was he?
Yeah, he spoke.
So Donald Trump, like, honestly, like, his politics, I'm okay with his politics. I like his politics. Donald Trump as a president speaking, horrific.
Right.
And then again with Biden, there are parts of Biden. I like that Biden is hard on China. I like that there's I don't think we should be in all these wars, but I like the fact that he's standing
a little bit
up.
less war.
Yeah. I think he's giving too much money to Ukraine. I think there's something, but I do think you need to support democracy. So there's some stuff, then there's 1,000 other things that I'm not okay with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And honestly, he's an old man. He's falling apart. And I feel bad. I hate it when they're vicious towards him. It's like, hey, bro, like, I get it. I do believe that there's a lot of corruption there.
Yeah.
I do believe a lot of these things are corrupt, but honestly, he's still just a feeble old man. Like, can we not make too much fun?
A little compassion.
Yeah, a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're right. You're right. He shouldn't be president. He's too old. He's not mentally capable. Like, all that's true, but can we at least not be a dick about it?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is like, you can be, that's the way I come at people, man. Is like, I'm very direct. Some people, without them actually paying attention to the full video or clip or something, they'll just see something and be like, dang, this guy is fucking rude, hateful, direct. I'm like, nah, if you pay attention, I got compassion still. I mean, I've just proved, I talk about Grant even having a good heart.
Right.
Most of these dudes, I think, like I said, they're just deceived, lost, or deteriorating in Biden's example.
Or Wes Watson. It's like, I don't mind what he's saying. I'm okay with
There's some good in there.
There's some good in there, and he's probably helping. Some people need someone to kick them in the ass. They do, and that if that's their guy, that's great. But you don't have to lie about it.
Yeah. Well, also he's very aggressive with the bullying shit.
Oh,
I don't know if you follow Baller Busters.
Did you
follow that? I think it's a podcast, right? Baller Busters. They call out Wes Watson quite a bit.
Busters. I probably am.
They'll post one-on-ones that are recorded from him talking to somebody
Oh my
one-on-one,
God.
and he's just like, "Shut the fuck!"
Yeah.
Just so rude.
Yeah.
I
You're
would
a
never
bitch.
pay
You're a
to be
bitch.
talked to like that.
Like guys are. I had a guy that came to me and said, "Bro, listen to me." On Instagram, he hit me up. He's like, "Listen, I will pay." He's like, "I paid to talk to Wes Watson for like 30 minutes or something. I forget what he paid, 300, 200 to pay." And Wes gets on the phone and he said he literally in the first 4 minutes called me a bitch 15 times. Jesus. He said hung up on me twice, told me I was a loser, like the whole thing. And then he said, "Matt, I will pay for you to talk to this guy for 30 minutes if you'll video it. I think it would be hilarious." And I was like,
"Did you?"
No, I never
Oh,
did.
man.
I've had other guys in the comment section saying, "Bro, I will contribute if you'll do it."
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's pretty funny.
It
Like,
is-
I'll pay to do that.
it is
That's
total
funny.
bullying. It's
Yeah.
He calls people names. He goes like, listen, if you can't speak to someone like an adult,
Right.
nobody should be following you.
And
you know?
here's the real thing. That's just fear-based stuff anyway. And people don't, in my opinion, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. People don't change based on fear. They don't make permanent changes. They'll only temporarily change just to get out of that fearful situation. But if they haven't done the internal work and worked on themselves, they're usually going to relapse and go back to the same person they were before.
Yeah,
In my
I can see
opinion,
that.
that whole fear-based shit is only temporary, and it doesn't actually change the person on the inside.
You know what's funny? I heard this quote from somebody. I can't even remember who it was, and I thought, oh boy, the way they said it, I thought, wow, that's absolutely right. And they said motivation is like food. Initially it cures that hunger, but it has to constantly be renewed.
Yeah.
So, and that's true. How many times have you watched some motivational video, a little 10-minute video of people, famous quotes or doing that, or whatever, whoever it is,
Yeah.
Gary Vee. And 7 minutes in, you're like, man, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And you hang up. But then
David Goggins.
Right, exactly. But maybe it lasts a couple hours. Maybe it lasts 2 days, and then you're hungry again. So you have to constantly renew that.
People are different too. Some
Right.
people operate at those levels naturally, or they've changed to be that, and they are that way naturally. Some people just aren't meant to be that, you know?
One time I had when I owned my mortgage company, I had a chick that literally, her name was Susan, and Susan, for the first 6 months that she worked for me, was not a great broker. She just wasn't. She's closing 1 loan a month, maybe 2. And then the next month she's coming in, she's asking me if she can borrow $1,000 and she'll pay it back on the next loan, which is going to close on Friday. And I'm like, that's fine. Susan never came in on time, always took off days, always left early. And it was always, and the excuses were always, not that she really owed me an excuse, like she's got a desk. And at my place, if you were closing 1 or 2 loans, you were carrying your weight. You sucked. You weren't doing great. Like, you're not a superstar, but
Getting by.
It's worth the desk. It's not like I have. It's not like I have desks that are available. I mean, that are all the desks are full. It's not like people were trying to get in. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine. You're closing a couple a month. That's fine. Every once in a while you get behind. I got to catch up. Give you money for your mortgage or whatever. That's fine. But multiple times she would come in and she would say, oh, my friend so and so is having surgery and I'm gonna have to take care of her. Okay. By the way, Matt, I'm gonna take off Thursday and Friday because my friend so and so, we're loading up all of her stuff on Thursday, and then Friday I'm gonna help her move, and then and then over the weekend I'm gonna help her. So I'll be back on Monday. I was like, okay. I'm like, she can't pay movers to do that. No, she doesn't really have any money in it. Okay. And it was constantly little things.
Always something,
every few weeks. Volleyball. She was the volleyball team captain, and she had to arrange this, or me and my friends are going to this, and I arranged whatever, and I have to. Okay, that's fine. So, what do I care? Like, I was making good money. I don't give a shit. So, one day, she had gone out with my wife, and they weren't like super good friends or anything, but there was a group of girls that went out, and she invited Susan and a couple of girls at work, and they all went out, and my wife got drunk, and so this was my wife, my ex-wife. She brings her home, throw her in the bed, go back downstairs. Susan's down there. This is late too. It's like a fucking 12 or 1 in the morning. And we're sitting there talking. Susan and I are sitting in the kitchen talking. And I said, and keep in mind, many, many times, every time she would come in and get a check and, hey, can I pay you back 500 of that and 500 on the next one? Because yeah. And I'd give her little motivational speeches, Susan, if you do this,
It's going to cost you a motivational speech.
If Susan, if you just come in more often, if you would just do this, if you would kind of put your heart into this job, you'd make a lot more money. You wouldn't have to borrow money from me. And it's not that I'm complaining. It's that I just know you're better than barely making your bills, and sometimes not even doing that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure she wasn't happy doing that all the time either. It's not fun, constantly being in that situation.
I feel like most of her life, she'd probably been like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you heard how she was raised and, everything, you realize like she's always been somebody at that point in her life who'd always been like lower middle class, struggling.
Yeah.
Fine. So what happens is we're sitting in my kitchen, we have this talk. And we have a talk, and I'm like, Susan, I go, the thing is, and she was, so I remember she's like, by the way, I know that I owe you this much money on Friday. This is closing. So that I was like, I know. Like, you can't not pay me. The checks come to my business. Like, I'm going to get my money.
Yeah.
So I know that. Don't worry. I know where you're going to pay me. And I know everything you're working on. And if you left, I just close those loans myself and pay myself. So, I'm not worried about lending you the money. And I sat there and I said, Susan, I don't understand. Like, you're smart. You are a salesperson. I've heard you on the phone. And she was a bulldog. Like she was tough.
Yeah.
She wasn't like a fucking flower or something, soft flower. Like she would get on the phone and argue with people and yell at them and this and that. Well, I want to talk to the underwriter. No. She was like, wow, okay, she's gung ho. She's getting this thing closed. Well, that's fine. I'll go somewhere else. Countrywide can do this. And she's talking them down on the interest rate. And, well, you need to relook at this because if you check this out and this, this is how much money what her DTI is. And they're like, so we're talking. I said, here's the thing. I said, you're a great friend. And she's like, thanks. I go, no, not to me, because we're not friends. I'm like I'm your employer. We don't go out.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm like, you're a great friend to all of your friends. I said, but if you started coming in and getting there at 9, the minimum 9, like I'm not asking you to come in at 8. God forbid. You came in until 9 and worked until 5 or 6, 5 days a week, and left your cell phone on and took phone calls after hours.
Yeah.
You would probably be closing 4 or 5 loans a month. You wouldn't have to borrow money from me. Not that I care. I said, but what bothers me is that you took off 3 days last week to fix your car. Because her father ran a junkyard and she could change a fucking transmission. You know what I'm saying? Like she drove around in her car. She had like a carburetor in the back of her car.
She sounds like a rugged one.
She's,
She's capable too. It
very
sounds
capable.
like.
And I was like, you took off 3 days to change this. I said, do you understand that? I said, and then your friend so and so in the moving. Yeah. I said, do you understand that if you were closing 4 or 5 loans a month, you could have paid for movers. Which she would have preferred to have movers than 2 chicks trying to pick up a U-Haul, load it, and unload it. I assure you, 4 men would have done that job better. And it'd have been done in a day.
Yeah.
You could have paid for that. Your friend who had the boob job, hell, you could have paid for a boob job. Your friend that she had to take care of that was having surgery.
Yeah.
I said, your car that you spent 3 days on when you could have been working, if you'd worked those 3 days, you'd have probably closed another loan, made yourself $2,500, and you could have paid a mechanic to fix it in a day.
Yeah.
And gotten a rental car. Said you took off 3 days. I'm like, let me put it to you this way, because this seems to be your motivation. You would be 10 times the friend you are right now if you would focus on making money, because money will fix all of these problems that seem to be detrimental to your career. Mm-hmm. Making that money would make you a better friend.
Do you think she was people pleasing, or she actually cared about?
I don't think she's a very, very nice person.
Okay.
And she was a people to a degree. She never once tried to people please me, but
everyone but you.
So I had that conversation. I said, I just wish you'd think about it. So she was like, all right, well, yeah. And she had this weird look on her face. No big deal. She leaves. I didn't know if I had offended her or what. So the next month, she closed 4 loans. She made like 10 grand.
Okay.
Right? The next month, she closed 6 fucking loans. One of the loans, by the way, was like a $15,000 broker fee. So I end up cutting her a check for like almost 20 grand because I took like 30% of the fee. So it was like, plus the 4 loans. The next month, it's 6 or 7 loans.
Yeah, she was just killing it then.
Fucking crushing it. Huh. So when she came in, and I remember I was writing her a check, I said, man, you are fucking killing it. And I was, of course I'm thrilled she's making money. She's making 20 grand. I'm making 6.
Yeah, it's
you know what I'm saying?
Good for everybody, yeah.
Right. So I cut her the check, and when I told her that, I said, man, I said, you are killing it. And she said, well, I mean, it's honestly, it's because of you. And I went, what? And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, because you gave me that talk. Remember when I brought, Kayla home? And I went, what did I say? And she goes, you told me that I would be a better friend to my friends if I would focus more on work. If I made more money, I would be able to provide more and be a better friend to my friends because I'd have money to help them.
Yeah.
And I thought, of all the stupid things that I had said over the last 6 or 7 months of while she had been there, of all of the motivational speeches that I gave her, like you could get a brand new car, you could get a nicer house, you could get this, you could get that, you could help all of those things. It was an offhanded 1-minute conversation. I'd kept her in my office for 20, 30 minutes trying to get this chick to start working. A 1-minute conversation dramatically changed who she was as an employee. And so you don't know. That's why I'm saying Wes Watson. Periodically, some people get motivated by different things. So maybe he says the right thing to the right person, and that's what does it for them.
Yeah. So, I've heard people say too that like some people I was talking to my friend Steve, and he said that he was like, some people need to be talked to like that. I'm like,
yeah, I can't.
Maybe, I don't know. Do they need to? I personally think you could still get to that person being direct, firm, straight up, and also just have the compassion on it.
Right.
But you're right. Going back to what you said, it's sometimes just a matter of someone else saying something or someone else saying something differently. There's so many factors in that, right? It could be tonality, because I've heard a lot of the same stuff that Grant even said before I heard him say it, but for some reason.
But what motivates you isn't necessarily going to motivate me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I something just happened to stumble into the right thing for her.
Yeah. What's funny is I've had an experience with all 3 of those dudes, right? And I didn't just like all of a sudden start calling Wes Watson out. Like we were talking in the DMs, and he was, what did he do? He pitched me something. Usually I send somebody just a personal video. You might have gotten one from me.
Right.
Probably. Yeah. That's usually what I do with everybody.
Yeah.
Like I'll take the time to actually hit him with the real video. And I did that with him undoubtedly. And he responded like, hey, let's scale your coaching program, I think is what he said, or something like that. And I was like, oh, you mean this coaching program? And then I texted him, my actual built out interactive training system that I've already invested $30K in.
Right.
That works fantastic. And there's really nothing else out there that beats that.
Right.
And not only that, it's the same system he already has with Brad Lee. So it's the same partnership. I was like, Brad Lee also created this. And it was ghost town after that. Literally just cut me off. And
you don't have a benefit to him anymore.
Exactly. But he was and I don't even know if it was him. Could be someone running his Instagram, most likely. Someone told me that he's sitting there on his phone all the time doing all that himself. And I'm like, I don't know if that's real.
Well, I mean,
if it was, that's even worse. I mean, the fact that you just once you find out you're not getting anything from somebody, and you're just like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like that's just immature as shit.
Well, I don't,
But that's when I started calling him out. That was months prior to me actually leaving Grant Cardone and all that, and I just came back to him and I was like, hey, what's going on? I'm going to reconnect with him. It was just ghost town, and then I started watching his posts and I started analyzing him a little bit more. I was like, this guy's full of shit. Mm-hmm. Like he's just, so anyways, but to your point, maybe some people get off on that, but I honestly truly believe that even the ones that feel like that's the way they need to be talked to, I don't think they truly change long-term permanently. I think it's more of just a momentary, temporary solution. I think you really got to do that internal work, and someone like also another part that I believe is I can look at Wes Watson, Grant Cardone, Andy Elliott. These guys have not done the internal work, meaning this is all projection, lost leaders with false confidence, in my opinion. And so if you're learning from someone like that, you're probably going to be the same way, meaning
Right.
you're not going to have true confidence. You're not going to really know yourself. You're just modeling and mimicking. You didn't know yourself to begin with, which is what attracted you to that. And so now you're pretty much adopting a thought process and a mindset that someone else created for you,
Right.
and you're not even thinking for yourself.
Right.
And that's my opinion. I think that's what's going on quite a bit right now. And that's what happened to me. And I see it happening to everybody else as well. And like I said, going back to being in several rooms with many, many, many successful, well, quote unquote, perceived, self-proclaimed millionaires and billionaires, I could see the same thing happening to them. They're all lost. They've all got just as deceived as the person that's, making $50,000 a year.
Right. I was going to say, I always love the guys in the comments who are like, well, you're just jealous because they're making money and you're not. Well, yeah. And I'm sure I could make money. I could make money just like them. If
Yeah.
I was willing to lie and cheat and steal from people. Like, listen, here's what I know. I know that doing that in my past life is what led me to prison.
Yeah.
And you cannot go to prison and continue to behave in the same manner that led you there and get out and not expect to come back.
Oh,
So
yeah.
while I was in prison, I decided I can't behave this way. And if I live in somebody's spare room the rest of my life, then I'll live in someone's spare room the rest of my life, because I'm not going to live my life like that.
Yeah.
But by getting out and having that mentality of saying, "Hey, you're going to be humble," and I'm not very humble, but I work on it. So you're going to be humble, and you're going to be appreciative of everything that you have, and you're just going to try and work hard and be thankful, be appreciative.
Yeah.
And if that's what your life is, well, then it's better than prison. And it's better than being the person that you were that ended you up in prison.
Exactly.
So, but the moment I got out and I behaved that way, like nothing but good things happened.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like
100%.
And not that everything I do benefits me, because I do tons of stuff every single week that don't benefit me. I'll do something and I'll answer texts for people and answer their questions and talk to them, and there's no benefit to me.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me about your credit, or here's what Matt, can you do? I don't know what to do in that situation. Or here's what I would do. Or some guy saying, hey, my girlfriend broke up with me. Here's what's going on. Boom, boom, boom. I was just wondering. I'd reach out to you. I don't know that you're going to answer me, but what I was like, listen, bro, here's what I do. Boom, 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 boom.
Not a therapist, but I'll tell you my approach.
Right. And then like 2 hours later, like, bro, I can't believe it. She's on her way over here. Like I sent the email almost exactly what you told me, and she's on her way.
Hopefully that's the best case scenario.
Yeah. You might have just jumped into the fire.
Right. Hopefully you didn't get him 5 more years of hell.
But there's no benefit to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's what kills me about the Wes Watson. Like, as soon as he saw there's no benefit, like that's short-term thinking. That's
self-serving behavior.
Right.
And a couple things that are coming to my mind before I lose these thoughts. Back to what you were saying. Those statements like you're just jealous, you're a hater.
Yeah,
these guys don't have time for you. They're multimillionaires. You think they're going to have time to respond to you. All those type of statements are all just made and created for these people being called out like I'm doing, for them never having to step up and defend their false confidence.
Right.
It's all just barriers to protect them. Right. They're just haters.
Right.
Yeah, I don't got time for all that. All of it is bullshit. Like it is all just, and what's cool is you cannot say that about me. I've got several businesses. I've made money. I've sold millions. I'm not going to say I've made millions, because a lot of people get that confused, right?
Right.
You're saying you're a millionaire? No, I'm saying people don't understand business. Just because I've sold multiple millions doesn't mean I pocketed multiple millions. But I've done well for myself. Let's put it that way. You can call me whatever you want, successful if you'd like. But I've done well for myself, I'll say. I don't need to worry about their opinion of me, and
Right.
I'm not a hater. I don't even want anything out of this. Like I don't have an agenda other than to just share my experience and let people discern these things I'm talking about. Like, just pay attention is all I'm saying. Like, there's red flags that are coming up for you, and most people ignore that. And I'm just saying, like, wake the fuck up is all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. If you want to hear my story personally, I'll share it with you. And then obviously podcasts like this, it's great for me to talk on as well. But yeah, people try to put me in that box all the time, man. But I've made investments, like I said, with Bradley. So I got a partnership essentially with that. Mm-hmm. I've done smart things aside from this, what would be not a very smart thing with getting involved with Grant. But the other thing I'll tell you about before I forget this too, I can't remember what we were talking about earlier, but it brought this thought up. You got to think about how crazy this is, man. The entire 3.5 years I was with Grant Cardone, all the shit I was chasing, man, money, people, opportunities, everything I was chasing literally fell in my lap. I'm not kidding you, in 2 weeks after I left that organization. Like all this, I was waiting on a large lump of money for like 3 years. That fell right in my lap in 2 weeks. People I've been trying to get a hold of, like high profile people for like 5 years, all of a sudden got a hold of me. Just like opportunity after opportunity just kept happening over and over and over. And I wasn't even chasing it. I didn't even want it. It was just, it happened to me, and I'm just purely grateful at this point. And it's a whole new way of living, man. And, you know, a lot of people I've said that to, they're like, I'd worry, man, it's coming too easy. There's something going on there. I'm like, what am I worried about? Like, I'm pretty stress free. Like, I don't think I'm above all that. I don't think I can't be fearful of stuff, or the uncertainty doesn't still try to get in my head. The difference is it just doesn't feed on me. I don't feed or into that shit. I recognize it, and it's literally like 1.2 seconds, the switch gets flipped, and I'm like, I know myself. Like, I don't even have to worry about this stuff. Everything is happening. It's just happening. It's all natural, organic. But how wild is that? Like, literally all that stuff I used to chase, literally in years, all came to me in a couple weeks.
Right.
It was quite mind-blowing, actually. I couldn't believe it.
How did your business do when you were with Grant? Did it 10x?
No.
No.
Nobody, maybe a handful. Out of the thousands of people that don't talk about their business not 10xing, there's probably, who knows, you can probably count on both hands how many people actually 10x their business and who actually invested with Grant. The only way you're going to 10x is if you invest in his scam and start scamming with him. You're going to 10x your scamming.
Right.
Like, you're not gonna scale your business ethically. Here's the other thing, man. I don't equate success with money. Just because you got a bunch of money doesn't make, in my eyes, you're not successful. Again, going back to me being in enough rooms with dudes who claim they're successful because they have a bunch of money, I see in their eyes, I see in their energy, they're not happy, they're lost, they're not being who they want. They're certainly not authentic, man. So I don't equate that. The amounts of money you have, a person has, that means nothing to me. Like, I would much rather be going real extreme. I'd much rather be homeless and be completely mentally free rather than have a ton of money and just not know myself.
Right.
I honestly would.
I love the Gary Vaynerchuk where he talks about, he's like, I know guys that have $20 million that are ready to commit suicide.
Exactly.
Like, and then I know guys that work as a school teacher, and his wife works at, as a cashier, and he teaches Little League, and he's the happiest person. All he wants to do is talk about his kids and show the pictures, and he's always laughing and always happy and totally in love with his wife. Like, he is more well-rounded and balanced and a happier person than my buddy who's got 20 million who tells me how miserable he is.
Yeah, that's a very common story and a very common theme, man. A lot of people just get blinded with all this. Social media has been a place to create that imagery and this whole facade that people have. A lot of people post pictures like Grant Cardone. All those guys, they just post pictures of them traveling and walking on the beach and in their nice houses and all that stuff. And none of it's real. All their content is all chopped up too. How obvious is that someone's lacking confidence? They can't even do a 1.5 reel, one take video of them without having videos chop, 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 chop every freaking sentence. Like, that to me screams lack of confidence. Not only that, you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing.
Right.
It's like, just speak from the heart and keep the ums in there and keep the natural human part in there that makes you actually connect with people. There's several obvious ways you can tell these people are just not right with themselves, and they're literally just they're just following a system that's been created, and they act like they're above everybody, and they equate it to money every time, man. It's just like, oh, well, look at your bank account, look at my bank account. It's like, dude, I don't
like, if that's what you have to drop back to, that's your fallback position every single fucking time.
Yeah.
First of all, if your bank account's so big, then one, why are you selling courses?
Right.
Two, why you're selling courses, and the second thing is like, why are you asking for investors? Like if you have so much money, why do you need investors to invest? Like you're worth $1 billion or $500 million. Like why do you need these investors to invest in real estate? Because the truth is you don't want to put your own money in that real estate. Or you know what? Probably more to the truth, you don't really have that much money.
That's more of the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
And I've found some of that information too. There's people I know that are still in that organization that I talk to that are not in complete alignment with him.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I've heard this, I've heard that, and they're like, he claims he owns the planes and the helicopters and all that shit. Pretty sure someone in Church of Scientology owns that, or they paid for it and put it through his one at Cardone Capital or something like that. It's all bullshit. Usually all of it is bullshit. That's funny. That's what John was saying is like, you're a con man. You're not a billionaire. You're all this. So I was getting a kick out of listening to that because he was literally just calling him out. And Grant has a great way of deflecting stuff, which is another sign of not actually being able to
just address it. If it's true,
exactly.
then just address it and say the truth.
It's all deflection, whether it's Scientology or him not being a billionaire. He doesn't want to talk about it. I don't know if you've seen that one video on Vlad where he brought up the Xenu thing. Grant literally shut him down. He was just like, so, it was something like this. He's like, I want to ask you, because at one point in Ron Hubbard's teachings, he talks about when you get to OT fucking 9,000, whatever, that he talks about Overlord, Xenu. And as soon as he mentioned that, Grant's like, hey, yeah, you know what? He's just like cutting this dude off. You want to hear it from me, man? And he's like, yeah, I want to hear it from you. He's like, some people are having a hard time just getting through the day. And he literally just started rambling about some other shit. He's like, you're going to believe some nonsense about that? He's like, it's all nonsense. He's like, you're just going to hear, it's all bullshit. Whatever you hear is just bullshit. It's like, you didn't really actually talk about what he was bringing up.
Yeah, you didn't answer the question.
Complete deflection. And reality is it's all, man, and going into Scientology, what I've learned about it, this is actually quite scary. He's literally, I think, turning people into Scientologists without even saying it.
Right.
Which is quite scary. Because everything I can think of in that organization is very similar. When I was like I've only watched one documentary, and that's all really I need to know about it so far. Everything was linking connections with that organization. I was like, that's exactly how the same friend that told me about him not owning the planes and the helicopters was telling me, like a month or two after I started publicly calling him out. She was like, someone called me from the organization, from Grant's office, and was saying like one of the higher ups too, the people that were like managing the 10X business coaches. They were like, yeah, we noticed you're following Ben and you're liking a lot of his posts. Like, what's up with that? Like you in alignment with him? And she's like, I could like and follow whoever the fuck I want. Like, who are you? Thankfully, she's got a backbone, and she didn't let them put the fear in her, but they were suggesting that she disconnected with me because I was a suppressive person, essentially. And I'm like, damn, they actually know what's going on with me. I'm just small fish too.
I was going to say the Scientology thing. Well, I interviewed Aaron Smith-Levin, the Xenu thing. It's so funny because like 20 years ago, like at their height, 20 years ago, right? When Scientology was really kicking ass, like 15, 20 years ago, they were kicking ass. Like since then, they've been going steadily down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, that's what Aaron said. Like Aaron said, like at their height, they had, I'm going to say 150,000 followers. I could be off. And then he said it's down to like 60,000 or something.
Wow.
So, and I think the problem is the internet. So, because they used to keep that close to the vest, right?
Like Amway.
Right.
They don't promote.
Right. So they kept the Xenu thing close to the vest. So you had to get into it, be brainwashed. And by the time they revealed that to you, you were so far deep into it, it didn't matter how insane it sounded.
Right.
So I'm already, like you said, I've already invested so much into it. I might as well continue to go forward.
Yeah. And there's a lot. All those aspects we talked about early,
but
knowing
now
people,
it's
friends.
Out there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so people are like,
I think that's true. Actually, it's just so exposed, and it's funny I mentioned Amway because it is kind of like that type of MLM.
Well, a lot of these types of things have very similar, should I say pathologies? Is that the right word? Or psychological, whatever. They have very similar structures to them. You know, they're always a little tweaked, a little here, a little there, but they all have that kind of.
It's all the same framework of inception and brainwashing. It really is. And it's crazy, you know, out of all these comments on these podcasts I've done, and also with Aaron's, his has been, he's got a good audience because obviously it's they know what he's about. Yeah. But the other one, you know, Cults to Consciousness, there's a lot of mixed nuts in there, people defending Grant and all this stuff.
I just interviewed with her.
Yeah, she's great, and so is Jonathan. They were super cool and understanding.
Is that her husband? Oh,
yeah,
I just interviewed her. He was behind the camera.
Oh, wait, was this recent?
It was yesterday.
Oh wow, interesting. Yeah, so she's she's about to give birth. I think.
She said that several times during the podcast. She said, "Listen, I
hope I don't go to labor." Yeah. That's funny. She's a trooper, man. Yeah, no, they're great, man. They really had I like their platform, and they obviously provided a good ground for me to actually talk about that stuff and kind of open it up. That was the first one I did.
What about what's the other guy? We've got some other guys that we talked to. What
about the CoffeeZilla guy?
I've never talked to him. But
God, I've been trying to get a hold of him. He's real low key, but I've only seen one video, but I could already tell me and him are in alignment with him attacking Grant.
Who's the other guy? There's a couple other people that I've talked to that are basically kind of like outing gurus.
Yeah.
I'll get you the other guy's name.
Yeah, put him in contact with me because I just love. Apparently, that's become part of my life now, and so just leaning into it, man. You know what I mean? I'm not.
At some point, maybe Grant Cardone will come and say, like, how much do we have to give you to go away? Like, just stop it. We could give you $40,000 but you just go away. But the problem is, I think he probably has a mentality that Ephraim Deveroli has. It's like, I can spend $50,000 on a lawyer and make him miserable, and he'll still go away. Like, they might think that.
Yeah, I've talked to people who were in that organization. Amongst all these people reaching out to me, there was someone who was in that. I can't really say too much about it, but he was in that organization and told me about experience of what he went through, and he was telling me that he's actually been getting repercussions from Scientology of like stalking and kind of the stuff that you hear about and see on the documentaries. Like that actually has happened to me, dude. And I could tell he had a little bit of the fear in him too, because he was like, they're probably listening to the Zoom call, dude. They got him a little bit with the fear, dude. And I was like, relax, bro. Like even if they were, who cares, dude? Like, I don't know. They could be at my doorstep and I don't give a shit. What are you going to do? Like, honestly, there's nothing they could do to me. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. There's nothing they can do to me that is worse than anything I've already been through, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's funny how freeing that is.
Right?
Right? Yeah. Like when you get to that point where you just don't give a shit anymore, you're extremely dangerous.
Like, bro, I've been through some shit. You think I'm scared of whatever you're trying to put into me? Like, you got me mixed up with somebody else, man. But you're right. It is a sense of it's that mental freedom I talked about, right? It's not being talked about enough. And then when it comes to entrepreneurialism, it's all about financial freedom and passive income. Like, you have no business thinking about financial freedom and passive income until you get this mental freedom under control. Like, get out of the fucking matrix that you're in. All Don't talk about it and act like you know what it is. Realize what it is and get out of it. Like, wake the fuck up.
Listen, I mean, we'll wrap this up, but I do want to say,
how long has this been? I don't even know what.
2 hours.
Has it really? See what I mean?
what we were talking about, Andrew Tate. I do love that when he got arrested and he's walking, they've got him handcuffed and he's walking by the cameras and he goes, "The Matrix has come for me." Like, I was like, wow, he really believes all that. Like, he didn't break character at all.
Wow.
You've been handcuffed. Your house has been raised. They've seized all your shit. They're walking you into the police station and you look at the camera and go, "The Matrix has come for me."
That's interesting.
And I thought, wow, this guy's all in.
Yeah. I don't know much about him, man. And
he's big on the Matrix. Like, you know, basically it's like his version of the Matrix is like the dark state. Like they're monitoring you. They want you to think a certain way. They want to control you. They want.
Well, I mean, he's on to something to a certain point. It's more than that, really, actually. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It was just hilarious, bro. I thought.
Yeah.
This guy's not even concerned. I mean, he's concerned, but he's not breaking character, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like he's got confidence.
Yeah.
So, and whether he's delusional or just misguided, definitely a little bit of that narcissism you were talking about earlier. I mean, when I hear him talking about, I'm better than you, just get in line, just follow me, bow down to me type shit. I'm like, dang, this guy really is.
Yeah, like I said, 80%. 80%.
You lost me with that.
I don't think I know. I don't think I've ever met anybody that I'm 100% behind. You know, there's always something you're like,
And that's the reality, man. Like, that's a whole another. Again, this is why these conversations go so long, right? That we live in a day and age where confirmation bias is a real thing. Like, if you're not hearing what you want to hear,
right,
you don't even give people the time of day. You start calling them haters. You start doing all that shit, and it's like, if you can't have if you're just living in a world where you want to only hear what you want to hear, you're missing out on so many opportunities. You're missing out on possible friendships. You're missing out on productive conversations. Like, to think that it's only worth your time to talk to somebody when you're just in 100% agreement with them, that's a lonely world to live in, man. Mm-hmm. And you start treating people like shit. There's so much bad that comes with that. But yeah, don't want to go on to another tangent, but I'm really glad that we connected and talked about this. Like I said, this is something I'm getting a little bit loud about, and so I'm not holding back, man. I'm just kind of going where I'm being called and just leaning into this. I have no problem talking about my experience and kind of waking people up to, particularly the 10X scam and Grant Cardone's bullshit, and like just pay attention. And he's not the only one. So if you want to know more about, I don't even know if you follow me, but I talk about these guys quite a bit. So if anybody,
I will.
Yeah,
well, what we'll do. You have a YouTube channel.
I have a YouTube channel, and I'm thinking about starting a podcast. People are telling me like, you need a podcast. So I'm like, again, right. I hear and feel these things, and I just go towards it. So I think the next step is a podcast, man. I really do. So hopefully I can get something nice like this set up.
We'll put the your YouTube, the link to your YouTube channel in the description.
Yeah, or my Instagram, pretty active, at Benjamin John MIC. That's my Instagram. But yeah, if you guys want to see.
Well, we'll put the link too.
Okay.
It's easier for people to hit the link. But it'll be in the description box.
Yeah.
Are we good? We're good?
Yeah, I think we're good, man.
Well, listen, I appreciate
Who knows,
you
we might do
out.
this in the future. Like I said, I'm not done. I don't think I'm not going to get suppressed.
Well, we'll see. Maybe there'll be more news or more something else will happen.
Right. Maybe next week you'll get captured by the Scientology.
And say, listen, they kidnapped me. Could you imagine if they held you for like 4 or 5 days? Next thing you know, you're back on stage with Grant Cardone.
Oh my God! Right, Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly. Hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Please consider joining my Patreon. It really does help. Also, check the description. We're putting all of the links to Instagram and YouTube in the description box, so you can click on them and go over and follow and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. See ya.